Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Today we're talking about John Steenhuisen, the leader of the opposition. Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. The GNU has long crossed 100 days, and one of the people who is having the most difficult time in the government of national unity is the leader of the Democratic Alliance, the second largest party by votes in the last election, John Steenhuisen. John Steenhuisen is having a problem because on the one side, his office has got challenges, the office of minister. And on the other side, he has made some leadership mistakes or moved slowly on issues that affected the party itself. And both of those things kind of converge. When you are the leader, you get a lot of praise, you get a lot of privileges out of being the leader. But when things go wrong, you also get a lot of the criticism. The buck rests with you. His biggest problem right now is that he has no chief of staff, but he kind of has a chief of staff. What happened is he appointed Roman Cabanac to be his chief of staff. That elicited a variety of criticisms from a variety of organizations, entities, and actors because they said this guy has ideologies which are problematic. He has made remarks which are problematic. And I'm going to unpack just right now. John then acknowledged that was a mistake and said that he had asked Roman Cabanac to step down. This is what he said when he admitted that he made a mistake.
Over the course of the last few days. And I'm happy to admit we don't always get it right. We never will. People make mistakes. People don't always get it right. And I think you should be judged on what you do when that mistake has been made, it's been pointed out to you, and what you do thereafter. And so there has been a conversation with Mr. Cabanac. It is a human resources discussion that's underway. And frankly, I found it far too distracting from the work of my ministry and our government that he is the news story rather than the work of the department. And I have asked him, therefore, whether he would consider stepping aside so in order for us to continue and move forward. And
so what are the criticisms that were made of Roman Cabanac in a variety of spaces and places? Number one of the things that he had actually said, he insulted President Ramaphosa, who is, basically the boss of John Steenhuisen as the Minister of Agriculture and a member of the, Government of National Unity, right? So he called him a P word, right? I can't repeat that word, but it's a feline entity, creature, you may be able to put it together based on that. So he insulted, in Afrikaans, quite a very, it's not a joke insult, it's a very dramatic P word type of insult. So he used that word in describing the president. He called him that. So there's a mistake there on the side of John Steenhuisen is to say you hired somebody in the most critical role in your office, which is chief of staff. That person has said very disparaging things about your employer, your boss in this cabinet position. How does that reconcile? Do you share those views? If this person says he gets along really well with you, does that mean that you in private have that perception of your boss, of your supervisor? If you do, that really is something that makes that relationship something that is, not going to be fruitful. If I'm your boss and I know that you insult me in private and call me all manner of words, that's going to be something that's really going to destroy our relationship or our capacity to have a strong relationship going forward. So the two scenarios, either he knew and hired him, which reflects that, he didn't take into consideration how that would look going up, or he didn't know. And if he didn't know, then it means that he didn't do enough of his own background checks to make sure that his chief of staff is going to be somebody who is going to be well received within the broader administration. So that's the first challenge that John is facing right now, is that his chief of staff hiring came with this critique. The second criticism of Roman has been some of the comments that he made on social media. They're varied, but I'll use maybe one to illustrate that people on the streets had maybe two. One was his comments around Xhosa people being in the Western Cape. He came across as somebody who was unwelcoming of Xhosa people and made it seem as if they are not part of the Western Cape and that they don't belong there. It was almost a tribal phobia, because it's not really a xenophobia, but it was that kind of a sentiment that this place does not belong to you, it belongs to other people, and what are you doing here? And that's how many people took his comments about Xhosa people in the Western Cape. The other comments that he made that really raised concerns were his comments that, that made it seem as if he was minimalizing or denying the extent of the atrocities that occurred at the Sharpeville massacre. And that in and of itself is something that came across very poorly to many people. But there are more comments that were made. He said that they were not done properly, that they were not done in the spirit of good debate. He said a variety of things trying to explain why those comments were made in the manner that they were made. But that is the source of the criticisms that basically were levied to Roman and made John say that he made the mistake, ask him to step down. Roman, though, has not stepped down. He said, look, I want to negotiate. And Sunday Times reported on what he said to them. And here is someone reading those remarks. It's not his voice, it's another person reading those particular remarks and giving you what he said in terms of his sentiments on this particular issue.
I have never refused to resign. Until now, nobody from HR has been in contact with me. People must understand that this is not the kind of job where you leave your work laptop on your table and just walk out. I have top secret clearance, a diplomatic passport, and I am in possession of classified material and cabinet reports. Do I just put those on my table and go? I went through 6 weeks of intensive vetting to get the job. They checked and tested everything from my metric, my personality and aptitude to my LLB degree. How can people now expect me to just walk out? I am waiting for the negotiations to start. I am not unreasonable, but I did put everything on the line when I took this job. There shouldn't be any issues. We will negotiate and find a reasonable middle ground. In 2015, we started this podcast called Renegade Report on Cliff Central. The first time I met John was when we interviewed him on Renegade Report. Subsequent to that, I met him informally on 3 separate occasions. I say informally because we were never really friends. I don't mean anything negative about John in saying that. It is just that I never went to his house and he never came to mine. We did not and do not have that kind of relationship. We saw each other when I interviewed him in his role as a politician. I also interviewed him a lot on my YouTube channel, Morning Shot, which I sold after he offered me the job as Chief of Staff. We had a friendly, professional relationship. Nothing less, nothing more. People in the DA sort of knew me as this podcaster. Of course, I had other business interests because podcasting doesn't pay, and I have a wife and 3 kids to look after. I never made any money from either podcasting or YouTube. I was doing it for fun. Morning Shot had 75,000 subscribers and 1 million views a month. John reached out to me for the job. People who know him will tell you that is a really rare occurrence because John is not very good with calls or messages. He invited me for dinner. We met at the hotel where he was staying in Johannesburg and ate in the restaurant there. During the meal, John said, "Look, we need people from the outside to come in. The GNU is going to be a thing, although I don't know what ministry I will be working in yet." John said to me, "You always said you're a patriot and would love to help the country. Well, here is your opportunity. Do you want to come in and help?" For me, this was like a dream come true, and I did not hesitate to say yes. It is one thing to pee into the tent from the outside, but when the opportunity arises to enter the tent and have a meaningful impact on the fresh reset of our country, you have to grab that opportunity with both hands. And that's what I did. He never told me what made him decide on me. I just had the sense that the DA did not have enough people who could fill these kinds of positions, and I think John has always been one of the, for lack of a better term to use, renegades in the political sphere. Look, I'm not going to lie, we get on very, very well. I think he took an incredibly brave step in appointing me, someone from the outside, in such an important position. And I regret the fact that it exploded so badly in his face. My old tweets were taken out of context by people who dislike me. I am unfairly under siege. What critics now did to me is called grievance archaeology. Obviously, someone saved my Twitter timeline, and that is what they now use to build the strawman Roman. I stand accused of being a racist, and I would love to see real-life evidence of this. I have never in my life treated anyone differently or badly just because of their skin color. I get along with all South Africans. I feel comfortable in any situation, whether I'm talking to Gayton McKenzie and his PA crew, or John Steenhuisen and the DA. For the record, I have never been a member of the party, and I did not vote for them in this year's elections. When it comes to finance, I am in a tricky spot. When I got the new job, I sold my YouTube channel, resigned my directorships in other businesses, and deleted my Twitter accounts because I wanted to focus on my job. My first month's salary should hit my account by Monday at the latest, but after that, my financial future is uncertain.
So yeah, that's what the man had to say. And there's some comments that I can make around his particular reflections. Number one is that he doesn't seem to have a full appreciation why the statements that he made were offensive to all of the people that were offended in the way that they were. I think that some of the statements were very serious. He didn't reflect, and some of them he deleted because he didn't want to necessarily explain. And he still hasn't explained why he said particular things. For instance, why did he say what he said about the Sharpeville massacre? What did he mean by that? I think he's tried to avoid having to explain by deleting and giving those generic apologies that he gave, talking about how he wanted to provoke debate, that kind of thing. So I think that Roman is in his remarks showing that he still doesn't fully have an appreciation of why the media responded in the way that they did. Some people within the ANC responded in the way that they did, and other government officials responded in the way that they did. And he even tries to still deflect, and talk about Gayton McKenzie and try to say, look, this is less serious than what Gayton did. Gayton went to prison. Whatever we think about it, he went through the judicial system. His record was at the point at which, like, he had not committed a similar offense after 5 years. So your record gets expunged, something to that effect. And then you are able to then become a member of parliament, a member of cabinet, etc. Gayton has been very open about his life and how he got to that particular position. So Roman, that's a story for another day, in essence, to unpack a lot of that. But what he said that was more pertinent to John, and why I'm also saying that John has a big problem within the DA, is that he went to this guy and gave him a very prized position in his office, in the Minister of Agriculture's office, to say, listen, I need you to help me with this job. And he's saying, we need people from the outside to come in. Why, as the leader of the Democratic Alliance, would you need someone from the outside to occupy that kind of a role? Your organization got 3 million votes. Your political party has been in existence for 20 years. You are the leader of that party. Why would you need this guy? Don't you have talent within your organization? There's various people who've studied management, business, who've studied and worked in corporate South Africa. Some of them have even worked around the world. So I think this undercuts his credibility with his organization in a way that I think maybe he doesn't appreciate, or it would have been fine if he brought him in as part of a broader team, right? That would have been fine. But if he went to Roman and said all of the things that Roman said that he said, to say, listen, I don't have people, I need people, there's no one with this kind of capabilities. What capabilities? Particularly, Roman had a podcast, he had an LLB. Look, there's nothing wrong with those things. He had a very successful podcast, 75,000 subscribers, much more than I have at this particular, 75,000, much more than I have at this particular moment. But that doesn't demonstrate that he has competence to run a government administration and to run a staff contingent within a minister's office. The DA has been running the city of Cape Town and the Western Cape for a very long period of time. Why wouldn't John be able to find people within the Democratic Alliance administrative desks within the Western Cape to staff this particular office? I think that he has a problem because he has caused people within his own organization to look at him in a different light. First, to say, did you respond effectively to the Ronaldo House situation? And secondly, you have the staffing issue. And by the way, he still has another staffing issue as well, because he tried to appoint 4 people who were unqualified for the positions that he was trying to appoint them for, on top of the Roman Cabanac situation. And those people, he had to apply for a deviation. They've not yet been formally appointed. And there's a problem there as well. And that adds to this other issue that exists right now, to say, why is John continuously trying to staff people who are unqualified for these positions? So I think he's in a very tricky position right now, and it may very well be that he may not be attractive to the organization as a leader going into the next election. We'll see what happens, but I think that right now John has a big problem, and that problem is Roman Cabanac. And there's going to be some backlash when they negotiate a settlement, because Roman is basically saying, look, I got this job fair and square. I'm qualified. You vetted me. You gave me the paperwork. You gave me all of the files. Why do I have to go? You have to find something. I'm not going to just go. Give me money. And, those are the labor laws, right? That's how the cookie crumbles, and they exist for a reason, and they're good. Labor laws are good. You need to have them. So that's the way that they are right now. And he's not wrong to say, look, I can't just walk away. I took a risk coming into this office. I've taken losses. I've got obligations. I've got kids. All of those things are fair. All of those things are fair. And this is the situation that John is in right now. I don't know, though. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think he does have a problem. What do you guys think? Do you think that everyone's blowing this out of proportion? Or do you think that John hasn't had the strongest opening in the 100 days of the GNU? I think that he's had the most, from the DA, he's had the most complex performance, in that he's had 1 or 2 wins, several losses, and because he's the leader of the party, and Helen also has been undermining him by saying a variety of things in various interviews that then cause friction in the cabinet where he has to work. I think that he has had the toughest time of all the DA ministers, and I think that if we were to rank them right now, he'd be number 5 of the 5, right? They've got 5. Yeah, I think so. They've got 5. What do you think, though? Where do you rank his performance? Let's have a conversation. Till the next one.